So when did we start planning this adventure, right? Well, really we didn't, did we? It was just spontaneous reaction to a friend's post on Facebook saying that you would love to go and swim around Oahu. You were here. Oh, no. Okay, one more time.
He gave her a treat, so now she loves him.
Oh,
look at this!
Thank you so much.
My recollection is we didn't really plan it. Marek had read something or saw the list, and it was very appealing to do something like that because we're very familiar with swimming offshore on Oahu, all over the island in different segments, but there's a lot of parts that we had never seen or swam. So we kind of thought, oh, that would be mysterious and it would be adventurous to go to these other areas that normally we skip. So I don't think there was a long planning stage. It was more like Marek saying, hey, do you want to do this? And at first, I said no. And I don't know how long it took for me to finally...
I think like 2 days.
2 days?
Yeah.
I think I had to check in with the family.
Yeah, well, your first reaction was, no way, I'm not interested. And really, literally, I think the next day, you came back and you said, okay, I'm in, let's do it. When can we start? So, maybe.
The allure of swimming around Oahu is pretty straightforward. For me, I've been swimming offshore on Oahu for many years now, and there's the usual routes, right? The ones that you go out with your friends or even alone. You know where you're going to start, you know where you're going to end. And for the most part, most of us in the swimming community have covered most of the island. But there's obviously areas that haven't been, conquered before. So when Mark asked me about circumnavigating the island, I thought, well, there's so many areas that we've never seen and no one swims around for whatever reason, and it would be great to be able to swim those segments, and to do it continuously around is just an even better, bigger goal.
So how did we start and how did we plan this whole thing? Well, we both are busy people. We have jobs, we have families. We actually happen to live on different sides of the islands, each of us. So it was pretty tricky and it was pretty difficult. So we basically swam whenever we could. Whenever we had time, Steve had time, he would just call me up, Marek, now, come over. I'm on the west side, we have 3 hours, we can jump in and do 7K. Or we had our Wednesday and Sundays when we basically did our long swims, and that we would just plan as long as we could, as long as the ocean would let us do long swims, because we had some days when we couldn't.
Wednesday morning, Mark was free, and I can free up my time before work, so that was a good target day of the week. And Sundays was our usual swim day. We rarely could swim Saturday just because we had to make sure we had FaceTime with the family, with our wives and our kids. So that led to maybe 2 or 1 swim a week at times. Plus in the summer he was traveling, I was traveling for work and swims. So we had to go when we had to go. Anytime there was a free spot on our schedule, depending on where we were at in the project, is when we would plan it. We had to swim on high surf advisory days because we were swimming based on our availability, both of us, and sometimes when we did have an observer. So high winds, strong currents against us, with us, it didn't matter if that was the time we were going to go. We never had a weather day, we just went.
And we loved it.
We picked clockwise largely because we thought the currents would be with us on the east side for most of it, and that just didn't turn out to be the case. Yeah. With the tides, the currents shift left and right when you're looking at the ocean from shore. And the funny thing about it is, by going clockwise, I breathed left. I looked out to sea the whole time and barely saw the island. The reality is you can swim in either direction. You probably should use a current diagram to pick when you swim.
If you can.
Measuring a circumnavigation swim, at least in Oahu, is very difficult. It has to be point to point, and it has to use geographic features that don't change over time. The problem is you can't draw straight lines. There's a lot of shallow reef. There's even rock formations that extend. There's the airport. So you end up with a lot of sections that are very tricky to measure. So at this point, I think it's best to just measure it point to point, but far out from shore where you're obviously past a formation that a swimmer can't traverse.
How did we decide where to start and where to finish? The start was very easy. That was basically the last swim's finish, so that wasn't difficult. Now, where do we go? Basically, it would be based on how much time we have, what the conditions are, what time of the day it is. So, and then basically looking at Google Earth, which is great. It gave us every piece of information we needed in terms of what the water and the reef looks like. The exit points, we would pick obviously a few points along the way, just in case we had to exit early, and then we would look for a safe exit. I guess for me the hardest leg was, well, the first hard one. There were a couple very hard ones along the way, and I think the hardest was, for me at least, Barber's Point, because I was sick. I got stung a couple of times. The surf was very big. We had to swim really far out, not knowing, and we were turning a corner, which is like what I call the corners of Oahu, and basically every single corner is not easy. So that was for me. I don't know about you, Steve.
The hardest leg for me, I mean, I can go on, but really it was Makapu around that tip. And it's more of an emotional reason, right? Because we were so supercharged by then, just doing 12K swims and even longer. Keep in mind we're feeding ourselves, right? So our limit is how much water and food can we actually carry in our suits. And so we were gung-ho about getting to China Walls, and that was about 12K, and to us it was a pretty easy distance to conquer. And plus Mark's friend Darko was going to be on the boat just to kind of, support us and observe us and make sure we were safe as we went around that corner. And the problem is we got so hung up with current that morning that we were swimming backwards at times. We weren't really going really far. And the worst part is that we invited crew and they just got so sick that they couldn't stay. And when we're swimming looking at sick boat crew, we decided to end early in Allen Davis, which was only about 4 to 5K from where we started and maybe about 7 or 8K from where we wanted to finish. And I felt really just defeated at that point because we really had.
Yeah, that was the day when we were doing 100 yards in 7 minutes. Remember? That was tough.
Yeah.
It was a tough swim.
But by then we already respected nature and we knew that sometimes we were going to be pushed backwards. And like I said, we weren't planning our swims around current favorability. We were planning based on our time that we were available. So a lot of times you had to just accept it, that you weren't going to go as long as you wanted to.
But we still made progress.
Yeah.
So essential tools that we needed to complete this swim. I guess one is definitely experience swimming in the ocean, and not just any ocean, but around Hawaii, and swimming around the coast, which we do during our practice swims. Understanding currents, understanding the moon, tides, winds, and how they affect you when you swim close to the shore and away from the shore. Understand what happens when you get stung, and all that was very essential for us. We swam in the areas that we never swam before. So we had to really try to understand the reef from Google Earth and try to memorize where to turn left, where to turn right, to kind of navigate around those sharp points. So one of the cool things about this swim for me was that we managed to make swimming into a team sport. It's very different when you swim between islands, when you have a support boat, because if one of the two people swimming together, say if 2 people swim, you can just get on a boat and you continue to still have the support. Here we're depending on each other. Not only that, because we have cars and exit and start points, but also what if something happens? We swim as a team, so we need to stay together. We need to align our strokes, align our everything basically, and have to trust each other. And it took us a while actually, but I think after maybe 100K of swimming together, we kind of figured out that we knew when we're hitting points where we get a little bit not easy about swimming, and we just were able to keep our heads down and then swim together and support each other, just for the moment, knowing that when we finish we'll enjoy it and we'll be very, very happy too. I don't know how you felt.
The bottom line is we're swimming together and safety's the biggest issue. We have to stay together and we have to execute together and we have to make sure we start and end safely. There's a lot of inspiration swimming with another person. I think anybody who does this a lot has gone through partners over the years and realized it's very difficult to dial yourself into another person, another swimmer, and have a similar ability and a similar pace and a similar attitude. And so for me, Mark is that one person who's come along in all these years that really can do all those things so that we can swim together and finish the project safely.
There were a couple of people who helped us along the swim, obviously. Even though we call it a solo swim, there were people who help us getting into our start, starting with our families, bringing us to the start. And then we had people who would escort us, just be in the water next to us, particularly in the sections that we both fell. Where for some of them actually were never swum before, as we were told, and or did not have enough exit points. So we just felt it would be better to have somebody along with us. And then we had some people who were looking for locations for future movie projects. Like Andrea, right? So we were lucky with having some freediver, Andrea from Italy, who was there and then who was around us, below us, everywhere, and basically kind of tagging along and making the swim, one of the swims, even more enjoyable. So yes, it helped us a lot. How do you feel about this swim?
I mean, I get an amazing sense of accomplishment, not just for myself, but for you and for us as a team, right? Because to pull this off, swimming over 200K together for nearly 72 hours in all conditions possible was really impressive to me. I never thought that would be something I would do. We gained so much knowledge about just how to do this and what to worry about and what resources to draw on in order to plan a swim. So those are like the big takeaways, I think, for me.
For me, it was fun. It was so much fun, and I like to explore. So doing this and close to my home, it was just phenomenal. So I'd love to do it again. I would try to do it at once, which I know it's impossible.
Yeah, I want to speak to that. So we really, I mean, we took months to do it when we're both capable of swimming every day. I mean, it's not a big deal for us to swim 10K or more every day and just knock this out in 2 or 3 weeks. And so another takeaway is that that's totally possible. And, you know, we weren't doing this as a competition with the world of other channel swimmers or open water swimmers and what they do. Otherwise, we would have planned it every day doing a 10K and have the observers signing off on everything. This was really a, hey, can we do this? And how are we going to do this? And we recorded it on our watches and did a lot of pics and videos at the start and end and sometimes in the water. And like Marek said, we had observers for the sections that we thought were dangerous or that we wanted visibility. But in the end, anybody can do this. And I think, you know, my passion would be, hey, let's take a few weeks off of work and just knock this out in 2 weeks or so, depending on what we can do. And what we did learn is you could plan it around the currents with you probably every day, so you can always get a push depending on what time of the day you're going to swim.
That would be cool. So should you do this? Yes, absolutely. I think so. I think that part of the reason why we did this, maybe after the fact we realized it, was to motivate other people and show them that it is possible. Do it. We're there to help planning this thing out, you know, so you're not alone like we were. And just go out and explore. It's definitely worth it. Compared to a channel swim, you get to see things actually. So I definitely do that.
Yeah, this is a very wild project, right? When you have an event, you have buoys, you have, you know, course marshals, or when you do a channel, you have a boat and you're going from one island to another. And so many times we're swimming, we don't really know where we're going to land, and we don't really know what the outcome's going to be, and we don't know what the conditions are. And so you really challenge yourself and your swim partner, like I said, to execute and to just make it to a safe landing spot. And that kind of intrigue and mystery is there looming over you during every swim.
No, so it's humanly impossible to do a continuous swim for 20K without support.
I would agree. I mean, one of our missions was to do this without any support, right? Yeah. Feeding ourselves. Why do that? I don't know, just to see if you can do it to make it a little bit different. The reality is we didn't do this continuously because of our schedules, and it hadn't been done, and we just wanted to explore the adventure side of it and see if it's possible. Yeah. And of course now, sitting here today, we can say, yeah, we're probably going to plan something that would be continuous. Whether or not we're fit I mean, to give you an example, 8 bridges in New York, we swim 120 miles over 7 days. For me, it took 42 hours. Well, why is it so much faster? It's downriver, and you have current with you, and you have people guiding you and drawing your lines for you.
You don't have waves.
And you have no waves, and you don't have head currents, generally speaking, based on the planning. Our swim, the accumulation of hours was near 73 hours. Well, we went when we had to go. We swam against head currents, against headwinds. We swam way offshore. We had to navigate around reefs and dangerous structures. So I think the advice moving forward is that if you had the time and the luxury to just devote to it, I think anyone could knock this out probably in 2 to 3 weeks and do 10K or more every day. You'll find that some of the geographic landmarks limit you, like Pearl Harbor and the airport. There's only a couple of ways you can safely get across that without having to swim much farther. But if people had boats with them and feeding off the boat, then it would be channel rules, right? You can swim 20 hours at a time if you want, provided you have that support. The biggest limiting factor for us was we could only swim 4 or 5 hours, usually based on our schedule or the amount of water and calories we could carry.
Plus, you also swim around the island. It's not a straight crossing, so while the conditions on this side could be good, they could be really bad on the other side of the island. So it's really difficult to plan a continuous swim, almost impossible, even for the conditions at some point. You would have to really hit a good window to be able to actually do it.
I can tell you what month that would be, but I would rather hold that as a secret for now.